I have said publicly before that I think 99% of all crypto probably goes to zero. But there is that 1% where I think that is focused on solving a real problem for real customers and is able to do that at scale. And that's going to be game-changing, and I think that's going to continue to grow significantly in the decades ahead.
Do you think that the different blockchains are going to come together when you say that there's mergers? Do you think the Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum are going to start to...
No, I was thinking more about there are a lot of companies that have started.
Yeah.
Although I think what his question kind of the underlies is, there's something like 2,000 different tokens and by definition underlying blockchains. I think 99% of them go away.
Yeah.
I think most of them, 99% is kind of a random number, but if we ended up with 10,
it's a big number.
Yeah, and most of the vast majority are going to go away, and I think it's because a lot of them were created with either an unclear use case or a use case that hasn't proven out. And, you already see that to some degree because there's no liquidity. And, ultimately in the digital asset space, liquidity is critical to the success. And so
not the urgency that some might have suggested on us moving to cut rates.
What are you thinking about in terms of when to start tapering the balance sheet reduction? Because now that's a conversation, right, at the Fed.
It's definitely a conversation, and I don't want to get too technical, but there's some measures like in our overnight reverse repo markets that we're trading that we're getting 2.2 trillion nightly. Now it's about 500 million or 500, yes. And so those are the sorts of things that tell me that there's still a lot of liquidity in the marketplace, not as much as before, and so we can continue. But as that gets further and further down, you're going to have to ask a more sophisticated set of questions to really understand how much liquidity there is in the marketplace. Because ultimately, all of this was done to make sure that markets could function. Markets are still functioning, both in terms of the money market side and in mortgages. That's a good thing. We just want to make sure that our actions don't trigger dysfunction.
So is that a summertime story too?
It could be. So I'll tell you. As the overnight repo markets have moved, I have increasingly talked to my folks in the building saying, we need answers for this. We need to start to have an idea about what kind of playbook we would have in thinking about what's happening and what our policy change should be. That is in process now. I'm hopeful we'll get answers and we'll have a view on this in the next month or so.
We're going to be data dependent. We're going to be looking at this meeting by meeting. Based on the meeting today, I would tell you that I don't think it's likely that the committee will reach a level of confidence by the time of the March meeting to identify March as the time to do that.
And, I think they jumped the gun in December.
Jumped the gun.
In terms of moving so quickly from raising rates to signaling that they might go to a very different posture, and there may be rate cuts as early as March. I mean, the language in December was pretty dovish. And I think they did that because they clearly blew it the first time coming out of the pandemic, where they waited too long to raise and then had to really chase it 75 basis points at a time, which helps create the situation for the banking crisis last March. So they wanted to make sure that they were ahead of the curve this time, but they jumped the gun. I think they're going to let it go. I think they will too. They're clearly not going to do March, and it may be the middle of the year before they make the first cut, or even
Well, that's a grim picture you point, and you do hold out the hope that maybe AI and technology could increase productivity, and maybe we catch up with some of this stuff. But do you think AI can be a net positive for employment? What if it's not? We're going to be a UBI. We're going to be a universal basic income country someday. It may increase productivity, but no one's going to have a job.
Joe, there's never been, and if you think about this, I think you'll agree, there's never been a major technological breakthrough that hasn't been employment positive.
Is this the first one?
No, I don't think so. I think, and if you look back even at the internet, you have search optimization engineers now and specialists. In the mid-'90s, in the late '90s, who would have thought of a search optimization engineer?
Yeah.
Right? So you have a whole set of jobs that are created out of the emerging technology. I think AI will certainly enhance productivity and probably create new jobs in industries that the three of us couldn't conceive. Nobody can conceive of.
Are you and President Biden happy with where inflation is right now?
Well, look, we know that Americans are experiencing discomfort because some important prices are higher than they were pre-pandemic. But what I think is really important is that wages have gone up along with prices, so people are better off than they were pre-pandemic.
Might make it more dramatic for the American people. The fact that interest payments on the debt in 2025 will exceed defense spending. That should get a reaction. I mean, that's just a spectacular statistic. Eventually, what happens in a society is that, first of all, from an economic standpoint, you're either going to have to raise taxes or cut spending, or both when it gets to that level. And that's obviously contractionary from an economic standpoint. And then if the rate of growth starts to slow, it compounds itself. And there are clearly examples throughout history. There are countries that are still struggling today, having gotten into this. I mean, look at the story of Argentina over a full century. So the United States is obviously a very different economy. The private sector here is vibrant. We continue to innovate. You know, the positives, AI and the technological innovation.
We've got the reserve currency of the world.
We still do, although you put that at risk the more you do this. There's just no question.
Without that, we're screwed, definitely.
And what's happened in recent years is clearly people are around the world, they're looking for alternatives for the first time, right? Now, the reason we still have the world's reserve currency in part is that there are no viable alternatives yet. But if something emerges, if we're at 150 or 200% debt to GDP, and there are more viable alternatives, then
because
that could be a risk.
doesn't work unless you've got the reserve currency. I don't know if it ever works, but there are people still saying that this is fine because we got the reserve currency. We can spend we can print money, so we can do whatever we want.
Look at the whole supply and demand part of it now with the Fed. I mean, the amount of debt that we have to put out there, and China's pulled back as a buyer, Japan has pulled back as a buyer. There's a possibility here, just on a supply and demand basis, you're going to get a more upwardly sloping yield curve, just because of the need to get this much paper out on a regular basis. So this is a big topic.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, please like and subscribe if you do like what you're listening to. Please inform your friends and family and spread it all over social media. It is imperative that we get back to learning finances and understand how the world really works, because once we understand how the world really works, we understand that it is all planned out. Now, I want to thank those who purchased the books Crypto Teacher and the New World Order book. Remember, the New World Order book shows you how the world really works, and it is definitely time for you to wake up out of that sleep, especially in the times that we're in right now. And 2024 is going to be one of our most entertaining years. We have the presidential election. We have the drums are beating. We have the emerging markets going to be flipping the switch on the fourth industrial revolution. Now, we had the Fed signal rate cuts, but remember, guys, they haven't cut rates yet. So like I told you, I definitely see a big pullback in the first quarter. Then the master magician set up a distraction so the Fed can cut rates, and then we move up. And also, guys, I want to thank those who purchased the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, much love to those who donate to the Cash App, Patreon. Much love. Keep it coming. Guys, if you're not a part of the Patreon, make sure you're donating to the channel through the actual Cash App. But guys, this next Bitcoin and crypto bull run is going to be a utility run. So you want to make sure you have the cryptos that have real utility. And much love to those who are shopping at both stores. Keep it coming. And of course, guys, we get into Bitcoin and cryptos first.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And right now we have Bitcoin and crypto slightly up. And guys, we know CME opens tonight. So we know it's going to move the market. And the morning, as yield rates start to pick up, we know it's going to move the market again. Now, this week, I definitely see open interest and volume on CME get a big slowdown. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now, guys, do not forget to pay attention to the actual indicators. And we have yield rates are rising, and they're going to continue to rise, but we definitely see the manipulation in there. We had the dollar on Friday pull back. We have volume in crypto right now just slightly down, Tether, USDC. And then, of course, guys, we have the Fed. Repo at $532 billion. And as we see the repo go down to zero, we know that's going to shrink a lot of liquidity in the market. But we know they have a solution, and that's cutting rates. And it looks like the Fed is trying to time this thing perfectly. And we had Janet Yellen again saying the consumer is fine with a straight face. But remember, they printed all this money in order to bring in the fourth industrial revolution. We have all this debt with these high interest rates in order to crush this current economy so the robots, algorithms, and drones can rise, take over the economy, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. But as we see liquidity shrink, and we've seen this plenty of times in crypto already, but this time, this is going to be the big one. We're going to see 99% of these cryptos disappear like Brad Garlinghouse stated. But it's just not going to be in crypto. We're going to see it through the whole legacy market. These small and medium-sized banks are going to disappear. We're going to see a lot of companies disappear. And we're going to start seeing the stock market shrink also. We see so many bankruptcies, but it's not put in the mainstream media. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have the spot Bitcoin ETFs. We have BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale. On Friday, they were all up. Now getting over into a little crypto news. We have LC Cop accused of stealing 81 Bitcoin during raid. And of course, what's attached? Binance Exchange. Now we have WorldCoin gets to all-time highs after the launch of Sora. And remember, guys, they haven't even launched the supercomputers yet. You won't be able to tell what's real and not real. Right now, they're just playing with the masses. Now we have FTX creditors file class action against bankruptcy lawyers over ties to FTX prior to its collapse. And guys, we know that FTX collapse was all a movie. It was all a plan. But you have Sullivan and Cromwell was closely involved with the exchange before the collapse. So they definitely should have knew what was going on. But we know there was a lot of big corporations involved with FTX and definitely should have knew what was going on, and they definitely did. But we know the Bankman was working on derivatives on blockchain being ran by an algorithm, not a human involved. And then lastly, we have Bahamas Bank Deltec accused of giving the Bankman secret credit to buy Tether. And the same way the FTX movie started, it first started with CZ of Binance, and FTX and CZ and the Bankman were connected until its demise. And now we're constantly seeing Tether being bought up and all types of illicit activity. So we know the Tether movie is right around the corner. And we know if anything happens with Tether, that's going to hit a lot of these cryptos, especially if you don't have any use case or attachment to these big corporations. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. But that's all I have for you. Don't forget about the books, Crypto Teacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Yashu and Grandma King save New York. From COVID Stories 3, Part 3. King Yashua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.